Hi, everyone, and welcome to Power Studio TV podcast number 8, I think. I've lost track. I've done so many of these. I'm starting to forget how many I've done. So tonight is really exciting because we have Alex Gavril here from Promocrat.
Promocrat, yeah.
I hope I said that right. I'm so terrible at names. It's one of those weird things I have in my head. But I really appreciate you coming in and having a chat with me because, growing your business and scaling up an idea can be a mysterious death trap for people. You just kind of blank out and you're like, what do I do? Who do I talk to? Where do I go? To tell people about my business. And one thing you come on the podcast, and talk about it. But, I want to give you a set the stage a little bit because this is exactly how I got started when I moved back to Romania, like 7 or 8 years ago. I grew up in Texas and I hadn't been back for 25 years. So you can imagine I barely even had a citizenship. So when I got back here, all I knew was my grandmother's couch and how to walk to a bar from Colentina, Kaufland. That's it. I didn't know anything else.
And to order meat.
And to order meat at Kaufland Grill. Yeah, and that's it. That was my little house 7 years ago. And because of networking, because the first thing I did was go find my way into BNI, go find my way into, elite business women and all these networking events. Of course, I don't think Promocrat was Promocrat around 8 years ago?
Yeah, we were, but we weren't doing what we met at the Bucharest Tech Mixer.
Yeah,
I'll tell you about that.
Absolutely. We definitely need to cover that. And so that was, because I want to glorify a little bit, your role as founder CEO of Promocrat. And I admire what you're doing because it's critical to growth. And so, that's the idea. And, without networking, without this sort of social promotion platform, I would have stayed at Kaufland Grill, going to a bar and not doing anything at all with my life. So welcome to the show. Thank you so much. So let me hear a little bit about, how you got started. You did mention, you have experience with Silicon Valley. So I'm really curious where that is. And give us a little background on yourself.
Sure. And thank you for the invitation. And for starters, I think that Kaufland and Obor are great opportunities for networking right away. Especially lately, since let's say more, a cool part of the population started migrating to that kind of experience.
Sure.
But of course, we do have like a formal business ecosystem. We do have tech companies, and it's important to have that kind of networking too. Just to give a bit of a background on Promocrat and myself and what we're doing is networking too. I'll try to keep it short, but you can ask me whatever you think.
Of course, I'll jump in anytime. Don't worry.
Yeah. So I think Promocrat, like a Democrat just for promotion, that was the origin of the idea. Started 12 years ago. We started, me and two co-founders, with the idea of being a marketing agency just for an emerging audience at the time, respectively startups and tech startups. Startup was a really new word at that time, and we thought, okay, let's catch the strain. Let's see where it goes. We don't have experience. We need clients that would be open to work with us like this.
Yeah, there's a saying, eat your own dog food.
Yeah. So we were also kind of a startup. We were in services. We were working with these new breed of companies that were called startups. At that time, it was very different from what startup means now.
There's no TikTok.
No TikTok, but also like I remember back then there was this program, like a grant program from the government that would give you 20k euros to start a business. And suddenly that was a big opening for a lot of young entrepreneurs to start their own business. And they were all calling it startups, but all of them were services companies. All of them were flower shops. They were doing home repairs. They were all over the place and everyone was a startup. But it did help kind of push the ecosystem even a bit forward. We did have tech companies back then, of course, but I think it was still young. We had zero VC funding.
Sure.
We had zero accelerators, so it wasn't actually a startup ecosystem.
It was still like Piazza Obor.
It was still like Piazza Obor.
Some money.
Yeah, just for young entrepreneurs, exactly.
Sure, yeah.
But I think these grant program kickstarted a lot of businesses and also helped us get into business and get some marketing deals. I think easily when we started saying that we're an agency for startups, a lot of companies that identify the startups started coming to us. And soon enough, there were the tech companies that started coming to us. And not only tech companies that were building product, but even services companies that were funding these products being built. And we got into multiple verticals like that. We got into banking, we got into retail, we got into more traditional verticals. And we also
how did you cross those very different roads?
Well, easy train of thought. We were saying that we're a marketing agency for startups, and we were serving that segment. But the startup we were working with would also have a company supporting it, which was a IT services company usually, and they would say, "I have this client, this bank. I do the technical part, I do the platform, but I need UX.
Okay,
can you help with that?" And I'm like, "Sure." They were like, "Well, I need some creative assets. I need a video." We're like, "Sure." "I need the go-to-market strategy for this product to get adopted even inside the organization, not necessarily outside." They were like, "Sure." And that's how we got into.
So you just never said no.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
Yes, man. He was a yes man.
I don't know if I would turn that into modern day advice, but there's a lot of things a lot of mistakes that we did in the beginning, and I think that they were a natural part of our journey, of our growth.
Yep.
We even though we got into these verticals, we never strayed from being an agency for startups. I think we stuck with that positioning to this day, but it's changed a lot, and meaning and execution, I think, on our side. I think two important things that this positioning did push us to some things. Like in the beginning, a marketing agency we imagined was doing a lot of creative stuff, a lot of unconventional things. Let's say outdoor stuff. Guerrilla marketing. That was kind of what we were imagining.
Secret shopper.
Secret shop, mystery shopper.
Mystery shopper, yeah.
We did do some for research purposes. We did do some mystery shopper. We were imagining like the unconventional campaigns, like you would draw something on the street. You would,
yeah.
And our customer profile actually pushed us to other areas. We didn't end up doing that, but we ended up learning a lot of digital marketing, of course.
Yep.
We ended up learning a lot of product and even product strategy and product development. Even though we're not technical, we understood the process and we were along with the developers and building the product. So that kind of set us up good for actually being a partner for startups and for tech startups and product companies. And we did this for about 7 years, I think, with very steady growth, I would say. We were growing year over year, but small growth. We were still just learning. Getting our reputation as an agency for startups in Romania. So we were already having conversations. And I think around 2019, one of our clients got invited to an accelerator. And in Silicon Valley. They got scouted. They actually got scouted. By that time, Romania already started to have a startup scene. We had VCs. We had the UiPath story, which, by the way, I think is the thing that ignited the startup craze the most in Romania. If you have to factor out one thing that defines our ecosystem,
that was the match. I think lit it up.
UiPath is the thing, and we can talk about it. But it was a startup craze. Everybody was targeting startups. VCs already coming in. This client of ours got scouted. They got scouted at How to Web to come to Silicon Valley to 500 startups. It's one of the biggest accelerators next to YC. And they were a technical company. They didn't have a marketing internally. And I said, okay, don't you want to come with us as our marketing rep on this journey? I said, hell yeah.
Yeah,
of course. It's Silicon Valley. It's an opportunity to learn for me, for the business, to get new stuff, to kind of match our knowledge, our 7 years expertise with what's happening in Silicon Valley. And I said, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
And when we got there, I mean, I was like, okay, who are these guys? They're from Romania. I was like, okay, we're experienced because I have 7 years experience with working with
startups. Kind of feels like going from like junior high into high school or high school into college, you know, when you're like the new one. I mean, so I was in Texas, you can imagine, as a Romanian, you know, and when I would transfer, and maybe I'm way off, but this is what I'm relating to. I wasn't there, but I related because when you're completely new to something, and I would go to high school. My first year in high school, I could barely speak English, sort of. I was okay, but everybody knows you're foreign. Everybody knows you're from somewhere else. I'm not a Texan.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they have more expectations on you or less expectations on you, but there is that difference. You got to factor that in.
Yeah. And for us, it was like top of the world. It was like the best opportunity we could have gotten as a Eastern European tech company startup, me and the client. And it was at the one side, it was humbling and it was a challenge. But also for me, I was kind of going into it prepared. I was like, okay, 7 years.
You definitely knew your stuff.
That's what I thought, because 7 years I've been like, okay, I've been hustling for 7 years. I've been working with startups in Romania. Okay, I know it's a different breed of startup here, but I know digital marketing. I know the ropes. I know what a startup goes through in the early days. I know how to build campaigns. I know how to build a strategy. We should be fine. That was my initial thought. Or we got this. That was like the initial thoughts. And when we got there, super cool people, the most amazing mentors for like an early stage startup. But not necessarily the mentors. The mentors were great too, but the process was super well put out for us. But it was totally new. So I had to basically rewire my brain to what it means to actually do marketing for a product company or for a startup.
Yeah.
It was, I was a very specific type of marketer in Romania before that, very, let's say, perfectionist marketer, where I wouldn't let my team do a campaign if we didn't have everything perfectly planned out, like a month before, all the assets reviewed to perfection, to pixel perfect. Yeah, exactly. Signed off by everyone, by the client. Also knew all the budgets, had prediction sheet on all the budget. We had to have everything perfectly planned out before launch. And when we were in Silicon Valley, you're like, okay, you have to try this out, and you have like 3 days to do it.
Yeah, and $30.
And okay, money doesn't matter. You just have to go to do it. And we were like in these cycles where we had to build a go-to-market strategy, actually do marketing experiments, and try out all the channels. We had to work on the pitch deck. We had to pitch to investors. We had to build the product and reiterate on the product. And we had to do all these things in like at least weekly cycles, even multiple times per week. We have to iterate. And it was something super unusual as a process for me and for the entire team. And I think for everyone in the accelerator to go through this, because we weren't used to that type of working, at least the Eastern Europeans, we weren't used to it.
Sure. Right? Yeah, absolutely. And I can totally relate. And I went to Startup Bootcamp in Amsterdam in 2020, and I got accepted to Startup Bootcamp with Pay by Face and MedicPad. And I think I was probably one of the only very few people at Startup Bootcamp in Amsterdam enrolled in 2 different startups at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So I did 2 startups in the Amsterdam Startup Bootcamp at the same exact time.
Oh, wow. I think you have a picture somewhere in the office, right?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I would say, it was kind of a coin toss, and I wasn't going to get accepted because I was, I had a very different mentality. When you sit with all the mentors and you try to, talk your story and everything, the former founder of Startup Bootcamp, he passed away, unfortunately, but I got to sit across the table from him, and he told me to my face, he was like, "You're not an entrepreneur." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, what are you talking about? I'm going to apply for 2 just because you said that." And
we also had a lot of cold showers in South San Francisco too. So it's not Silicon Valley. We are actually doing 500 out of San Francisco, and we actually had a lot of cold showers too. Like, again, with this perfectionist mentality going in, we had our main EIR, entrepreneurial residence, basically the guy that was taking care of us and making sure that we are on track. He was a badass. He was like going to kick your ass on every occasion. Yeah, he was a super cool guy, but he was a badass. And I remember our first meeting, we were super prepared in the meeting. Strategy documents, Excel sheets with predictions, and we're like, what are you going to do? And we're like, going to do this. We're focusing on sales, first of all. We'll take advantage. We're here in San Francisco, talk to the local companies, go target this person, and we'll do this 10-point action plan. And we're like, hey, what are you going to do? We're doing all of this. No, just go and do it. And 1 week passed, and we were like still strategizing. And he was like, no, guys, stop all this paperwork. Just go and talk to some people. I don't care where you find them. I don't care the channels or everything. I need you to bring me some results on the table. You're here to deliver results. I'm not here to deliver presentations.
Yeah, very good. I like that.
Yeah. So everybody, you have like 4 or 5 months in San Francisco. You want to take advantage of it? Well, make every minute count. Don't wait it out. I mean, this might be a big chance for you. Go out and just talk to people. Don't waste your time on doing office work. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that there's been a saying, where it's like, intelligence doesn't define success. It's action.
Yeah.
If you can't get out of the room, how are you going to get anything done?
Yeah, exactly. And even with startups, I mean, remember 10 years ago, we had this mentality that I wouldn't tell you my idea. Because maybe you steal it.
Right,
maybe you steal it and you do it, and you do it before me. And it was like, 10 years later, I'm sure that idea is probably 5% of the job. The rest is execution.
Absolutely.
And also timing, also a lot of things, but it's not. It's more about the execution than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of lessons learned from going outside of the normal. when you're in, when you're taught a certain way and you've practiced a certain way and you just stay that certain, there's that thing from Einstein, that if, you expect different results, but you don't change the way you do it, you're kind of insane. Whatever it is, but it's like you're sitting there waiting for something else to happen, but you just don't change anything. It's obvious. So when you got out of boot camp in San Francisco and you learned all the lessons learned and you sort of, retailored your strategy to thinking new and taking more action, you came back and tried to get others to follow that strategy in a way, or did you just boost and regrow your own strategy to scale at Promocrat?
So what we did then, so the main takeaway, there is one main takeaway that we had at the accelerator, and that was, it can be summed up in one word, that word is growth. But it did mean different things when I went in and when I came out. When I went in, it was just a buzzword, which you just put on presentations, put in pitches.
With the little crisscross arrow on top?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was just a buzzword, basically the most butchered bad buzzword in marketing and sales. But when I came out, it had a totally different meaning. I think it has to do with the idea of growth hacking, first of all, which is like a process. It's experimentation. And that's a process that you can implement into product development or into marketing or into sales.
Or your relationship with your wife.
Yeah. You just don't tell her that you're doing it. So that was one of it. And I think another big one was having a growth mindset, like what you're saying with the Einstein, like doing...
waiting for a different result, doing the same thing.
Yeah, without changing anything. And I mean, growth mindset says that, okay, you don't need necessarily more resources, but you need to rethink how you use those resources in order to achieve a better result or a better version of yourself. And these two, and I think some more avenues converge into what we called growth at the exit. And actually seeing it being more than just a buzzword, even more than just growth hacking. It wasn't just growth hacking, it was growth as a part of the business. It's actually a literal business function that we're starting to see in organizations, which is like responsible for aligning all the different functions that deliver customer value, like product, marketing, sales. And it does so with a lot of things. We have a lot of theory on it, but that's kind of the San Francisco sparked that interest in us and actually seeing that, okay, there's a way to do things that's different than the intuitive way that we were all used to. And it's happening in practice in San Francisco, Silicon Valley, the US specifically. And I think that we were far behind on that in our practice. I mean,
Here in Romania.
Romania specifically, because we were very active in the market, kind of always sharing best practices with other agencies or with our clients, with everyone. It was also at the EU level. We were having conversations, following everyone, but the action we saw in the US was totally different. Mm-hmm. And we can go into a lot of the specifics, how it's different and what this function is actually doing. But you asked what we did.
How did you apply those lessons? Because there's a lot of training seminars here in Bucharest, educational courses and all kinds of stuff. But I noticed that when people leave those events, they just go back to, their old ways.
Yeah.
They don't apply anything. So how do you, how did you take that step of learning this? Wow, there's this whole new way. Let me just go do it. It's like instant application.
Part of the, marketing is a domain where there are a lot of opinions and everyone can have an opinion. And I think it's very destructive to preach before you practice. So,
like in anything, I think.
Yeah. But in marketing specifically, because there's a lot of opinions, there's a lot of content on the internet, do this, do that. So our approach was practice before we preach. We knew that we could preach that and market that, but we wanted to have, first of all, the practical experiences. So our first step was to actually find amongst our clients the ones that would be open to this new way of working. We're like, okay, we're using this new approach. We're working agile on marketing. What do you think? We're working data-driven on our marketing. We're having sales KPIs in marketing. What do you think about that? And people are like, yeah, sounds natural. And we're doing experimentation. We're doing experimentation like this. We're documenting. We're analyzing results. And we're like, yeah, it sounds natural. It sounds like what we should be doing. And we found like a couple, I think 3-4 projects like this, clients that trusted us, that knew us for a long time and say, okay, I trust you. I know you were in Silicon Valley for this program. I understand you have some insight from there. Let's try it. Let's do it up. And I think in the first 6-7 months of doing it like that with these clients, we actually started having our boom case studies. It was post-pandemic. I didn't mention that, but we were our accelerator finished when the pandemic started.
Okay.
So it was a craze. Our business was also super affected. Like when the pandemic hit, we lost like 40% of our revenue just overnight. So we didn't kick anyone out. It was part of our philosophy back then, but we were in trouble. So we were kind of trying to get back on track like a lot of companies. Yeah. And I think when we started doing this, and in a couple of months, we already started having like these big case studies that were, I wouldn't say viral because we're doing a lot of B2B. They are actually the first things in a lot of years that were bringing results in a predictable manner.
Wow.
So we were doing a lot of marketing before this. We were getting results, but it wasn't like this systemic way and predictable way of getting things done and getting results in. And
it was under your control.
Yeah. And even the clients were seeing it. They even when they were in results, we would be able to understand what's not working, what we could be doing to tweak it to work. And it was a process that, as we were seeing it in Silicon Valley work, we were now seeing it here with some of our clients.
Cool.
And then when we saw that we were validating this, that's when we started, okay, let's build the case studies. Let's define the things that we're doing. Okay, what types of campaigns are it? What types of action, what type of engagement we have with the clients? How do we work on this? Because we didn't have, we didn't know how to invoice that kind of work before.
Yeah.
So, sorry, that was me.
Yeah, that's our time.
Yeah.
We got some fun buttons here. Nice. Yeah. We don't usually push that button, but
okay. I just randomly chose it. I saw PUBG and I thought that
it's okay. Well, that's gonna help our attentive viewers here. So once again, I think the idea of this whole distraction, I'm gonna bring this into this conversation because getting distracted in marketing is you have to have control and analytics and understand which direction you're going and where you're putting your message out there, because there's so much distraction in today's world. I mean, you get distracted all day long, and you could easily miss the message. You can miss your marketing because people are distracted. I don't know. You just ended up doing a press release at the same exact time as who knows something else in the marketplace, and you didn't get any viewers because nobody was looking at the internet. That's hypothetical, but you know what I'm saying? And I think without having that sort of discipline, you know, of not being, you know, let's just shoot in every direction and see what we kill. Let's figure out how many bullets we have, what kind of, you know, where are we going, you know, how much time we have, and just calculate the reasons. Because if you do have failure along the way, you know, well, we failed because, you know, we ran out of bullets or, you know, whatever. These are very basic examples, but right? So I think a lot of those lessons learned would, you know, is a huge value to Romanian entrepreneurs. And all of that, I think, starts back. And this is, you know, this is kind of how, you know, I met you at the other event, at the event. You know, I actually logged in again, starting my networking. I downloaded the Meetup app, and, you know, and I downloaded all these apps to get on events. And I was like, "Ooh, this looks cool," you know. But if I wouldn't have opened my awareness to that desire of growth and networking, I would have missed that opportunity completely. Yeah. So how do you explain, you know, just like you, like if you wouldn't have gone through that in Silicon Valley, perhaps you wouldn't have had that sort of aha moment where you're like, okay, there's actually opportunities all around us. We're just not looking at it. Right? Yeah. You just have to open your eyes and go search it out and focus your energy on what you want, because everything can be at your fingertips. Of course, you need guidance and mentors and experts and understanding and all this stuff, but that's why you have to go search those people out and then apply them to your organization, right? Your specific area being growth marketing and, you know, growth hacking, experimental design, and, you know, how do we turn our messaging into something that actually gets people interested in converting down into, you know, something tangible, money. And so now that, you know, you went through it, you experienced the growth using your own best practices. You had some use cases from some clients. How are you starting now to give it out to the mass audience? Like, what was the next step now to make it sort of a universal platform?
So after we started having the success cases that we would be able to validate what we were doing, the next natural step would be, okay, document them and release them as marketing info, either through just releasing the case study or doing workshops on it, or doing, we basically started to build out our knowledge from those use cases and started to build, okay, what are the things that, because we learned a lot in Silicon Valley, but we didn't learn all of it. We learned experimentation. We kind of got the mindset, what it was doing for us. We learned that we have to use data. We learned that we have to use technology in some ways. We learned that we have to be agile. And those were things that we learned from different sources, but we brought into, okay, building our own method of working. And we actually have like a couple of keywords like that we attribute to this growth function. I'll just mention them to make sure that we're on track, like cross-functional alignment, results-oriented, data-driven, tech-loving, agile, experimentation, I think is the big process of it. And there's also more soft skills, like being customer-facing all the time. Like even being enthusiastic about what you do is part of the mindset. There's a lot of things, but I think the first 6 are the most important ones. And we actually started building knowledge in our process and the process that we are teaching our clients around that. The next big step was to actually have some bigger consulting projects to document all of this. So we got into some strategic projects where we would not only do the execution, but also the documentation and write them down for us and for the client. And then, okay, we're sedimenting our knowledge. This is how our practice starts to look like, kind of productize our service in a way, but with a lot of, let's say, flexibility. And then we did a rebranding. You tell people that, okay, we're doing growth now. And what does this mean? And
Is this when you added the triangle?
Yeah, this is when we added the triangle.
Yeah, because I see that triangle everywhere.
Yeah. It has a big...
Where did that come from? Why did you pick a triangle? Did you pick it?
We did a hackathon internally. So when we decided to do our rebranding, we had multiple ways of doing it, but we did it with an internal hackathon with all our people engaged and involved. And the triangle kind of came out, and it was nice because it's upward pointing, so it does signify growth in every scenario. It's a rocket, like the two triangles that show a rocket. And it's a simple, very simple branding element that we can put on any visual, but not only visual, because you saw it in event titles, in email titles, in document titles. You see it everywhere. And people, when they see the triangle and any communication they get from us, they know it's from us.
Yeah, so, it's very clever. Very clever.
Thank you.
I had to transfer it to the site. I was like, this is definitely something unique. So
yeah. And it's a simple character, simple keyboard character. Yeah. But one funny thing with the networking event, I was like, first networking event that we ever did, we had, it was at Negroni, like this February, had a lot of people coming in, even a lot of foreign people. And there was like, this guy comes to me, oh, hi, super cool. You're doing this super cool event. I'm from the Netherlands. I travel around. I love what you're doing. I see a lot of great people. Well, thanks for everything. And he asked me at some point, what lounge are you from?
What lounge?
Yeah, like loja.
Oh,
yeah. Like, what do you mean? It was like, what lounge? Because you have the triangle in your symbol. I was like, okay.
Yeah, you have to be careful with that.
Yeah. No, it's not that kind of event. Yeah, but he got it. Yeah. But going back, we did that rebranding, which was a big point for us announcing it. But what we actually started doing is being more active in the startup community. And that's when we started to do a lot of workshops, do a lot of mentoring, partner up with accelerators that kind of knew about us, invited us, okay, let's talk about this. And we were lucky because it wasn't only what we were doing outbound, because we weren't doing a lot of outbound, but there was the startup ecosystem with startups now getting financed, going through fundraising processes, and they were being asked by their investors mainly that were, let's say, more European facing, okay, so what are you doing for growth? They're like, well, what do you mean? We're doing marketing, we're doing sales. No, but I want to see you having a process for this.
Yeah.
Like we see in Silicon Valley, like we see in other startups. And that actually helped a lot because when people were asking for growth, a lot of answers would point to us because we were only among the few that were actually
child.
Yeah, but we didn't have like a mature practice. We still don't have a mature practice, I think, but we were a lot of
You've been there, done that.
Yeah. And we were part of a lot of the networks, some of the answers, and people were starting coming to us, and that actually showed a lot of what we were doing. And it also helped us realize some important things for us. One, that we're part of the startup community, whether we like it or not, and we're a big, let's say, for ourselves, we thought that we do have an important role to fill here, especially as, I won't say we're blessed with this knowledge because everyone can have this knowledge, but we're really interested. With the rebranding, we found our mission, we found our direction, and we're here to stay in this market, whatever happens with it. That was insight number one. Insight number two is that we're not making money in this market. Because in the startup area, even now, but even back then, if you look at our revenue, it's like very small chunk of our revenue. But it was actually fueling our growth. Even like that, it was fueling our growth. So what we started to see in the business, like, okay, we're helping out and this level of startups, we're not making money of it because we either have, let's say, small budgets, or we have clients that will go out of runway. They have to raise another round. They have to make...
Sure.
So we are helping out. We are giving our knowledge, but it's not profitable. So why are we doing it? And we asked that question. We actually found a lot of interesting answers because, one, it's our duty to do it because our knowledge is mostly in that area. I think that it's a cool thing to be able to help there. Two, by doing it, we have we're proving our skills to other segments of clients for us, like for the scale-ups scaling out of the startup world that know about us and work with us.
And you're building trust, which is trust equals, like Apple founder said, trust equals money in the bank.
Yeah.
You can't put a value on trust in business because it is the base of everything. I think that's number one important, and then trust in brand, of course.
Yeah.
People got to know who you are. And like you said, everybody started pointing to you when there was a need. And so that, I think that's key to knowing that in an ecosystem of wants and needs, demand and supply, which is basic, business 101. If there's a demand out there and you're the only one that supplies it, it's pretty obvious eventually, that's going to monetize itself. Maybe not overnight, but you have to be there, always there, like back to the obor thing, right? If I want the best roshi or whatever, I know this guy at obor who has the best, whatever, strawberries. Or Meech at Obor, right? Or isn't that like one of the best? One of the best is Meech at Obor, right?
Exactly. So, It is a game of reputation too. So we do have. I mean, we don't only have successful projects. Of course, we do have failed projects.
Sure.
We're a marketing agency. We have a lot of them, but we try to maintain kind of this amongst our people, the desire to only have success and to be present in the community no matter what. And when we did have the realization that we're startups, but we're not necessarily growing directly with them, but we only looked at our sales model because 0% of our sales, I think, come from outbound, or probably 10% of what we do as outbound effort. We don't do outbound efforts. So most of them come from recommendations or from seeing content that we produce or from being in a workshop or for most of all being recommended through a referral directly. So when you see that that's the way that we're growing, of course, that we want to be able to give our knowledge as wide as possible, to give our knowledge to people that have success with it, either by us or someone else. So that became our marketing strategy, and sales strategy.
So, out and speaking of this whole inbound, outbound, I think it's like black and white, outbound versus inbound, sitting around and building something so cool that it sells itself, or having a team of people that are so interesting and enthusiastic about something and knowledgeable about a field to where, others want to be part of the team and, soak in some of that knowledge so they can walk away smarter than they came, kind of stuff. I don't know. It's a very interesting space to learn how to manage both sides, because the outbound, cold calling, let's pick up the phone and call 300 people. And out of 300, we'll maybe get, 3 meetings or something. And now, of course, with agentic AI and AI outbound systems, and you can automate all these things with AIDA and platforms and stuff, and just import a bunch of contacts. So, go scrape LinkedIn and do lead generation, and I'll just automate. I'll put a robot on all this, but that takes the whole personal touch that you're doing. The personal touch, which is going to be even more important as robots take over the internet and robots take over our cold calling and our service centers. And, every time I pick up the phone, it's going to be like Ava or George. Right. And so I think having that whole, personalized services that really refine your growth strategy. And it's not just about, let's just see how much stuff we can crank through this, AI engine to generate money at the end, because you're just going to burn through every handshake and they're never going to look back at you.
And I actually have an interesting story here. Because I'm very pro technology and pro automation and kind of doing things efficiently, or even just using innovation just for the sake of seeing it in action.
Sure. It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. But one big learning here, a lot of small learning. One big learning, actually, our, let's say, biggest challenge of 2024 was actually trying to build a complete, let's say, lead generation ecosystem for software services customers with high-ticket enterprise clients.
Like we have downstairs.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
Is that high-tech enough?
Yeah, so we have like dozens of attempts in the past with multiple clients. We knew all the ropes, we know all the channels that were kind of out there. We knew what had success in the past. We knew kind of the puzzle pieces, but we never kind of pieced them together in that like predictable growth manner. And now we took on this challenge. Okay, let's build this ecosystem. Let's see what kind of pieces we need to put in this puzzle in terms of processes, in terms of team, in terms of tools, in terms of content, in terms of messaging, in terms of messaging variation, in terms of experimentation, and put all these puzzle pieces that we know, all these puzzle, put them together. And trying to prove something that's really hard, because if you know what downstairs is doing, software services is like high ticket software services, custom development especially, is like probably the hardest domain you can try to do like automated outreach in.
Yeah, it's the closest thing to building something nobody needs as possible. It's humanly possible. That's not completely worthless.
I mean, we were talking. We even along the years we tried to outsource this. If it's not working with us, let's try to outsource this automated outreach to other teams. And all of you we talked to, they all told us it's the hardest domain to crack outreach.
It is, because it's kind of going against the saying that you have to build something that people want, right? But if NVIDIA followed that, we would have never had GPUs. So it's like, you're not built. Yes, I understand we have to build things that people want. I get that. Okay, we all get that. But I'm building something that people don't know they want yet. And they're going to need it in the next 10 years. They're going to need it. They just don't even know it exists yet. And we're building stuff downstairs. We're building stuff downstairs that, some people don't even know even exist on this planet. So, it's like we have our own little AI here, our open AI downstairs, and it's not for show yet. But so that's very challenging, because even if I wanted to go out there and talk to people, and it's almost like I'm way too sci-fi. I just landed with a space shuttle, a spaceship, in your backyard, and I'm like, hey, you want a lightsaber? And they're like, what the hell am I going to need that for? I mean, I know what they're going to say. So, but you're right. I mean, regardless of what your assumptions are, regardless of what your fears are, regardless of what others might say to go do or not do, like the mom test and all these other tests that you probably learned about in Silicon Valley. It's like, just go do it anyway, right? You just go do it anyway. Even if you think it's not going to matter, just do it anyway and see what happens.
I'll tell you just in a minute how we started the networking event.
Okay,
it's an interesting twist on this. Just to clean up on that outreach subject. And you said, well, it's really hard to sell something like a lightsaber to someone that doesn't know what a lightsaber is,
right?
What you guys are doing. It's also hard to sell something that the company does not necessarily need at this moment, and that they already have options in place. And not only that, they have another 20 people at least like you per week or even per day that are competing on the same thing in the outreach channels, because you're competing with all the Asian companies that have a lot of manpower, and they also have a lot of technology adoption for marketing. They're doing all these automations, and you're basically competing to differentiate on what price, maybe use cases, but it's really hard to get a message through in terms of outreach channels. And our main takeaways was a very complex exercise to actually build out this lead generation ecosystem. But the main takeaways is that you need people in the front lines. Even though you're doing automations in the system, you need actually very good people still acting as not necessarily sales, but probably, let's say, marketing qualified lead hunters that are doing a very specific
cool bumper sticker, right?
Yeah, very specific type of activity. And their role is not to sell. Their role is actually to not sell. But they're trying to open relationships and build them out before pulling any trigger about discovery, demo meeting. Of course, if there's intent there, yes. But usually in these cases, there's no intent. There's no immediate intent. There's no immediate project. You just have to open the conversation, build a relationship, kind of establish a rapport, and keep nurturing until it comes. So when we figured out that we need people on the front line that are very good on this, we need those people to not sell, but actually build and nurture conversations. And last but not least, everything that they're doing, they have to be personalized. You figure that automation is really not an option for a lot of these processes. Instead, you need to try to see what you can automate. Okay, maybe we can automate the LinkedIn connect. Maybe we can automate the follow-up emails that we're sending. But you should be looking at how you're providing value in that relationship building at every step of the way. And I think that it's still up to humans.
You got to hear a heartbeat.
It's still up to humans, especially in those kind of deals. I mean, there are cases where it can work, but in those kind of deals, we realize that the best way to do that is still with this human power. Of course, we had a very complex system built, but it was a lot of cool insights.
So how did you start? You said that's how you started the event, the latest events, right?
The events were kind of a different story. So because I was going to touch about just have to go out and do it. So the events actually started again with US inspiration. Started with the idea that one story I have from Silicon Valley that when we were at the accelerator, they told us about the first networking event. Hey, LinkedIn is doing this event at their office. Don't you want to go? And we were like, yeah, let's go. And we got to the LinkedIn HQ in San Francisco. It was like kind of in the ground floor. There was a lot of people there getting ready.
I bet, yeah.
Yeah, like 100 so people. And at 7 p.m. sharp, when the event was about to start, someone came on stage and said, hey, welcome to LinkedIn. We have food, we have drinks. Enjoy. And we were like two Eastern European guys looking at each other like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
So what do we do now? So we drink, we eat. Is there a talk? Is there someone to introduce us here? Do you know anyone? And we're like, no. And we were like, for a couple of minutes, we were like one next to each other. Like, okay, what do we do? This is awkward. And people were talking about each other. And they were like, so the lady said, now talk. So... and we were forced to learn, what it means to just go out your comfort zone and network with people. It might sound strange for you because you grew up in the US.
Not for me. Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. It does.
But for us,
like you landed on Mars. You're like, what the heck?
It was really awkward because in Romania, at least you had, we were at this event, we saw the speakers, we had something to talk about. You go, how did you find the talk? Mm-hmm. Now you're like, okay, you just gotta go and meet people. And it turned out good, but it taught us an important lesson that a networking event should be about networking and maximize the time that it gives people to the event, maximize it towards establishing those meaningful connections. Yeah. So it was like no topic, no presentation, no agendas, no panels, no speakers, just pure networking. And I then got to see along the years in New York, especially, a lot of networking concepts take off and actually doing a lot of interesting things to facilitate networking. But it was, again, about networking. It wasn't an event about something else and then the networking. Whilst I think in our ecosystem, as I find it, I'm sure that there are a lot of meetups happening all over the place, but most events happening in Romania are kind of networking is an annex to the main event.
Right.
So
it's like, do it if you want.
Yeah. But you still, if you talk to the people, like at a big conference, a big one in Romania, half of the people, if you ask them why they're there, they'll say for the networking.
Yep.
So content is definitely important. It has its role in events, but we saw that, we should kind of try to bring that vibe of, we're doing this event for purely networking, keeping it super casual and doing everything we can at the event so that we make networking easy, fun, and valuable. So that's how Mixer started. And that's the brief I gave my team. We're doing this event. Just try to focus on networking. Nothing else. It's just about networking.
Yeah.
Keep it casual, keep it simple, and let's just do it. And the first iterations of the team were, we like the concept. It's super cool. And let's meet in a week and see what the action plan is.
Yeah.
And when we meet in a week, it's like, we have this plan and we'll do this and we'll do these games to introduce people and we'll do this and we'll do event number 1 on topic this and number 2 on this. And guys, just networking.
There's drinks, there's food.
Yeah. Now talk. And we have to focus behind the scenes in bringing the right people, matchmaking them, making sure that they're synergistic group.
Sure,
they're balanced, but we have to make sure those behind the scenes. But for participants, it just has to be as casual, as effortless as possible. Like we're now finding the term business casual is actually very important to us because it is a business setting, but it's as casual as possible.
Yeah. So there are some basic expectations, like you're going to get pitched, you're going to get handed a business card. People are going to talk about what they do, but it's fun. It's exciting. Like, it's almost a little bit like high school reunion almost. Like you want to feel like you're within friends, like they're you friends who all just went out after work. We want to just share our days and what successes and failures are and what I need, but it's still impromptu, it's kind of impromptu. Like you have an expectation. And this last one that I missed, I really wanted to be there because you said there was like DJ, you kind of did spark it a little more than the previous one. So you are fueling, putting some fuel on the fire to get it going.
And it's interesting because people enjoyed that. At least that's what they're telling us. I hope that it comes anonymous feedback still. Yeah. But the whole idea behind DJing was to actually position it and make people understand that it's casual and it should be fun, and it shouldn't be something you do as a task or something that you do with, let's say, with
sales,
or sales. It has to be casual. Exactly, it's super casual, and having live DJs is part of saying that we're super casual, and it's not about having a topic. It's not about having something very formal. It's about
it's not Rome Expo.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember some of the coolest networking interaction I had one-to-one were actually one where I could come up to you. We would talk a bit about what we do, like a minute, say, okay, maybe we have synergies, and then we continue another 5 minutes about other things we like. So those are the most interesting. I don't know the only, but those are interesting networking interactions because it shows you that the networking event itself,
this person has a soul.
Yeah, but you remember about what we talked?
Yeah,
we didn't talk about business that much.
No, it was just, you had some interesting other friends there, and so I think, like you said, it's the whole environment that you create that sort of lets you bring down that you be a little more vulnerable.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and not so stuffy. It's like, oh, I have to do this and I have to do this because my boss, or whatever, sent me here. It's just, dude, just chill and share what's up.
And there's other rules. And if you look at how do we do partnerships in general in business, it's a lot
on
about
the golf course.
On the golf course.
On the golf course without golfing clubs. Yeah,
it's a lot about the alignment we have culturally and the fit that we have as people, not just as businesses. I think it's those factors too. I think the networking event, those are the factors that you prime and you test. And of course, the business is objective. Okay, you sell this, I sell that. We have this in common. Let's try to build something.
Yeah. We're running kind of out of time here. We're hitting almost an hour. So interesting. But I do have, I went to this event and I want to give you some constructive criticism. Because I think and I don't know this last, I want to see more events before I, make my experiment. But because I did art first, I launched art first in Bucharest, and
the big one, right?
Art first, yeah. I rented Czech Palace for Centenar. From coming from my grandmother's couch in Obod, within, I think this was 2019, 2018, to Centenar, I got all the way up to getting Czech Palace, and that's because I didn't take no for an answer, and I had a really cool event. So. The idea that you bring a lot of people with a desire into the same room, like you said, you have to validate them. You have to kind of filter them a little bit so that you don't have like 60, 65-year-old executives, retired board members sitting around with, 22-year-old people right out of college, which is interesting because, you get a lot of feedback if you're in tune with that crowd and you know how to talk to them, and you're building next gen products for the next 25 years. It's a great crowd to look at and experiment with. But having maybe like and this is just my own personal opinion, because it's like going the 45-year-old at the club in Centru Vechi, all the 25-year-olds. It's like, dude, what's that dude doing here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that because it does have that business casual side of things, I think there might be a benefit if you maybe split it in two parts, the older crowd versus the younger crowd. I don't know.
We are trying to do some splits. One of the interesting things that we will be trying to do is actually do more pre-matchmaking. So making sure that we have people that are meeting first of all, new people that they haven't met yet. And of course,
everyone there I met was almost new.
Yeah.
So, and then I brought a couple people here in the office too. So it's really cool place. I mean,
we do have some rules for that.
Yeah.
I won't share them because we're giving up ideas to competition. No, I'm kidding. We prioritize inviting new people.
Cool.
Just so you know. So before we send out any communication on our public channels, we prioritize inviting people that haven't been there before.
Nice.
We prospect them. We try to figure out, okay, what kind of profile do we want? And we prioritize inviting new people because doing an event that's, okay, has a focus. Bucharest Tech Mixer does have a focus, but bringing in the same people every time or not doing any kind of diversity will get boring.
Yeah, I think so. You're right. Yeah.
Especially if we want to do it monthly. So we're doing multiple things on that. Like the DJ thing is one of them, but the most important one that we're always prioritizing new people in the community.
See, that is such a minute detail, but it's all about growth strategy. And I wish businesses would apply this. It could seem like this is like putting extra salt on your steak, but that makes the biggest difference. Having steak with not a little salt, you're putting a little salt. So, I mean, that's the difference between, success and failure.
It's actually counterintuitive to a business to not prioritize your recurring customers because but for us, we know that the value we provide is with the new connection that you're making. And we know that the people that are looking for connections will come in anyway. They'll see how it comes anyway, but want to make sure that they have valuable new connections to be made. And there's a lot of people that we have in our target audience. So they're probably...
Alex, you're doing a fantastic job. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I think some of the lessons that we've learned today boil down to that saying of just go do it.
Yeah, of course.
So just go do it. And if you need help along the way,
JFDI. If
look them up and keep an eye out for that triangle. You'll see him.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, thanks again, Alex. And thank you to all our viewers for tuning in. We're going to wrap this up tonight. And just make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And see you next time. So good evening.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.